All right, so today we're going to do a reaction session where an atheist, even though I hate that term and I don't think it really exists, but an atheist and a Christian react to random videos on YouTube. We'll start with that because we can do some of those movies and other things later because just so we can kind of hop around and don't have to commit to one thing right now.
Yeah.
So introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sayla. I'm a Christian content creator on TikTok and Instagram. I've been a Christian throughout my life, and I've had the privilege of growing up in a Christian home. I put my full faith in Jesus Christ, and I truly believe in the Bible and everything it says. And I believe that if you put your trust in Jesus and decide to have a relationship with Him, you will be going to heaven, and that you have a relationship with God. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, but that's the most important thing.
So what is like your favorite movie to do with Christianity or something like that?
Um, so a lot of people there's a lot of mm, I like the Case for Christ a lot. I think it has a lot of interesting facts and apologetics. It talks about the science and historical background between what we see in secular historians and the Bible, and I really appreciate that.
Is it meant to be nonfiction or is it more fiction?
So it's based off a true story of this guy that was an atheist, and he took to court if Jesus actually rose from the dead or not, because he believed if he could disprove that, he could disprove all of Christianity. Because like that's all that Christianity is like based on is Jesus defeating death, right? And so he believed that if he could disprove that, people would stop being Christians. He took it to court, and through how our laws are made, if over a certain number of people are witnesses, eyewitnesses, then it's taken as fact. And so there were enough eyewitnesses to so many things that Jesus did after he was fully dead and fully rose again that they believed it was factual. So even in court in modern day in the 2000s, it was concluded that he did rise from the dead. It's pretty crazy.
But how can they be witnesses if it's in the modern day?
So it was in the Bible and it talks about all the witnesses, and then I guess there's also other historians, but I
No,
wish
no, but
I
that's
could pull.
you're saying the people in the court in the present time were witnesses.
No, I mean the in the writings,
Oh,
like different people writing it down.
but the court case happened in modern times.
Yes.
So that would be more like hearsay because you're saying you're not going by someone witness who's actually there, present, testifying under oath. You're going by written word, which isn't taken that seriously in court.
Maybe. But there's also evidence that goes along with it. Like Jesus's side was pierced, and whenever his side was pierced, it says that water came out, and that means that your kidneys were. There's something about like your kidneys were completely failing, and when water comes out, it shows that like you're dead. Like that's it. So whenever they pierce the side, I actually have it right here. It says that it says that the Jews asked if his legs could be broken and they might be taken away, and the soul, and they did not break his legs because it says in the Bible that the in the prophecy that not one of his bones will be broken. Um, and so then it says that so before Jesus died, actually, he told his one of his disciples, one of his followers, his name was John. He told him to take care of his mother. So it says that after Jesus, knowing that all was now finished, said, "I thirst," and a jar of sour wine stood there, and the sponge. They took a sponge and they filled it with the wine and put it on his lips, and then he drank it, and he said, "It is finished." And then later, or I guess right then, they pierced his side, and it says like they will look on whom they have pierced, and that was a prophecy they had like 600 years before.
But what I'm saying is, if the standard is you can have something written by enough people and they don't even have to be present there, So you could collect the writings of about Greek gods, of people who believe them from hundreds of years ago, and that would stand by the same basis that you just said in court, right?
I can see what you're getting at. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, personally, I think those are spirits. That's kind of my view. Like, so if you're taking like the other gods or the lowercase g gods, right? I think those are spirits. So I wouldn't even disagree if someone was like, they're real. I'm be like, oh, they're demons, but maybe.
But in this, I'm just saying under the, not as your
Yeah,
opinion, but under that legal basis that you're saying.
right. Right. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. There's just like over 500 people saw him. So that's just like pretty absurd number.
Or on a more basic subjective level. So that means based on the number of people. So if 1,000 people come together and decide to lie about something, that makes them right.
Well, they were from different people groups, so that's pretty significant too, because like the Romans were not really friends with the Jewish people and the Hebrew people, and like a lot of the people groups weren't in community with each other. Does that make sense?
But still, let's say hypothetically, in the modern day, right? Like enough
Yeah,
people believe in
yeah.
Scientology. So
Anybody could lie.
does that make it
Any,
valid?
I mean, to me, I have faith, right? But if somebody's trying to prove it, I think it's worth seeing the weight of that, I guess.
But no, I'm saying if the measure of this is like a scientific method thing. If the measure of something is simply based on the raw number of people who believe something, you can point to
Right,
countless instances in history where people have been objectively wrong about something or where it's been morally questionable, right? Like certain
right.
groups and whatever, right? World War II, Germany or something. There might be people who passionately believe something. That doesn't mean that it's true or right or righteous or anything like that.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to trust people in general because people are flawed. I think the difference to me is I believe that the Bible, everything in the Bible was assembled by God. And so like every time someone wrote something that was going to be in the Bible, I believe that God was giving them the words to say and that he had his hand over everything that was going to end up in our Bible. Does that make sense?
But it's again, it could be a flawed messenger, like you said. People are flawed, so they have their own biases, they have their own incentive, they might have
Mhm.
ulterior motives, they might make a
Yeah.
mistake.
I was actually reading today, there's this verse where two of Jesus's students were running to his tomb and they were racing. And it says that the one Jesus loved got to the tomb first, and then later Peter followed him. But the one Jesus loved won the race, essentially. And it's like, it just shows the humanity behind all of these people because truly they weren't thinking like this is going to be a huge Bible. Like this is their testament of Jesus, right? It's like their journal essentially. So, I think that's pretty interesting.
Or like, what would you say to um, like who do you think? Let's say hypothetically, right? The whole religion, like Christianity, is like a conspiracy, and it was done on purpose to garner power. And let's just hypothesize. Who do you think that would have benefited, right? The people in the church eventually, or who do you think would benefit most from that?
Mm, you know, I actually think Christianity really benefits the world because as Christians, we believe in giving to others and giving to the poor and caring for widows, caring for the sick, caring for orphans. So, if we're talking about who actually benefits from it, it's really the less than, the needy. So, but that's my view. And then I guess for if it was a hoax, I don't really know who would benefit from it because it actually says in the Bible if this is wrong, then we should mock our own lives because it's like what are we living for this for? But because we know this is right, we should live it out to the full extent. It's like it says like if the Christian life is false, then it's like worthless. But since we believe it is true, it has a lot of value. You know?
But that's more a philosophical argument than that's saying like, well, we believe it because if we don't believe it, we would feel like life is pointless. But that's not
No,
actually an argument.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I think I think what he meant was that the way we live as Christians, it isn't how our flesh wants to live. It isn't how our humanness wants to live. Like we want to be selfish and we want to, do things our own way and be greedy. And basically, Christ is telling us to not do those things and to be laying down our lives for people, even in a spiritual sense and even just our time. And so, I guess that's a big difference of like saying, what are we doing if Christianity wasn't real? Just we would live our lives differently.
But see, what if people can do those same things that you're saying and have done them and have other moral codes and laws in
Yeah.
other cultures, either without God, there still can be laws and morals, so you can still have those same practices, or even with God, we've seen bad things happen and immorality and even in its name justified. And on the PowerPoint, you don't see that throughout history a lot of people benefited from it. Like, oh, this king was a there was some term for it, like absolutist king or something, where they're point divinely chosen by God, or different members of the church and bishops and so forth that they benefited, and so there's no incentive there to exploit it for your own benefit, even if it is true, or people didn't benefit throughout history.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, I think God does give me blessings because I am his child, right? And when I ask for okay, this is actually funny. I was singing this song and it literally was like, okay, well, first of all, I said, okay, God, I don't deserve any blessings that you give me. I know I don't. But it says in the Bible that you will bless those who ask for blessings. So I'm going to ask you for blessings. This was one morning. And so I sang this song with my cousin and it was just for fun. Like it was a worship song. And it was like, bless me, God, indeed. And then the rest of the day, I kept getting free stuff. I'm not even joking. I went to like four different places and people bought our coffee, people bought our lunch, somebody gave us free muffin. It was like there were so many free things. I got free stickers. It was just like it was silly, but I was like, okay, that's God. I don't get four free things from different places every day. So
But if you could put that to the test, then why don't you do that every day and the same thing should happen then?
Because I think that's not how faith works. Like, I believe God will give me blessings, but it's like if I'm testing him, it's like I'm not relying on my faith, I guess. Let me try and word that better. Just a second. Mm, I guess that would be taking his grace and his the gifts that I don't deserve anyway for granted a little bit because I'd be like flaunting it in his face like, "Oh, I won't believe in you unless you give me blessings," you know?
But it's more like just a consistency. If it is true based on that, there should be some way to test it. So in other words, if you did that same bless, bless, bless song and then nothing happened, you wouldn't use that to say, oh, that means it didn't work and he's not real. But when
Right.
it does happen, you'll use that to say he does. So it's a selective criteria.
I see what you're saying. Well, I guess I feel blessed just by having God with me and just by having the Holy Spirit in me. And so I know you're not gonna like that argument, but I'm
But
like, those are blessings
that
by
wasn't
itself.
enough then, because then why did you do the bless, bless, bless thing?
Well, I still sing that song. And it's just like there's blessings that I don't know that are coming, and there are blessings that are here. And, for me, it's just like I've even been blessed by getting to serve people recently and like getting to talk to people that are lonely. That's a blessing to me. So, I don't know.
But yeah, what was that one thing I said? And then we'll get when we're doing the reactions, we can try to keep it a little more faster pace. But this
Okay.
is fine. Like, what was the one thing I said that
That got me.
before the power, people benefited, people got power from it.
Oh, yeah, something about the kings or who benefited from Christianity if it was a hoax, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think there's a specific. I mean,
or even if it's not a
nobody's
hoax.
lived this long, you know? Nobody's been alive this long. And I feel like the church leaders, literally there are martyrs that kept proclaiming the name of Jesus till they died. Like people were put to death because they so much believed in Jesus. There's even a guy named Paul, and he was one of the people that would kill the Christians. And he was like, "These people are disgusting. Like they're committing heresy. They're saying things that aren't true. I'm gonna kill them." So he's killing them like crazy. And then Jesus showed up in a dream to him, and it like blinded him. And he was like, "You have to stop killing my people. Come and serve me." And so Paul turned his life around, and he wrote half of, well, not half, but like the very end of the New Testament. He wrote like over 6 books, I think. So, yeah, food for thought.
So yeah, if we were to look at something, what would be some figure in Christianity or some speaker? Is there something, someone that you would
That would,
recommend?
for what?
Like just in general that you like or that you listen to?
Oh, okay. I like Charles Stanley, but he passed away. Right now I've been listening to Bryce Crawford a little bit. He's younger and he's an evangelist. He really likes going around and sharing the gospel with people. I think that's super cool. I also listen to Theocast, which is just a podcast. I don't necessarily agree with everything they talk about, but like I think it's interesting, you know.
So can you see yourself or you can just see
I
the
cannot see
window?
myself,
Okay,
but I can see you, so I'm okay.
okay. But you can see the window.
You're I can yeah, yes. I can see Charles Stanley.
Okay. Well, let's look at this guy. So I've always seen that. Do you know who this guy is?
Who is that guy?
Cliff. I don't know how you say his last name.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think I've seen a short video of him before. Yeah, Cliff Mitchell.
Okay, so
Mitchell.
let's kind of look at it and then we'll have our own
Your idol.
Okay.
Who's my
opinion
god
on
or
it.
my idol?
Let's see.
People, community.
Can you hear it and everything?
I cannot hear it.
Oh, really?
Your idol. Who's my god or my
Okay, I
idol?
can hear it.
You can hear it.
People, community.
So you live for the approval of people?
No, I live because who do I live for?
Yeah. Who do you live for? What do you live for? What's the evidence that what you live for is true?
Huh. That's an interesting question. I appreciate you asking. What do I live for? I think there's a lot of problems in this world, and I think, it's everybody's job to try and leave things a little bit better than you found them.
Your idol.
Who's my god or
Okay, so what do you think about that argument?
Hmm. Well, I think it's very powerful to want to change things for the better after you die, but Jesus is my reason I want to change things for the better. So, like, who am I living for? What am I living for? I'm living to share the good news of the gospel for people because Jesus changes lives. I mean, Jesus saved all of our lives. So, if I'm asked, like, what am I living for? I'm living to share the joy and peace I have from Jesus Christ. And through obeying God and through obeying the commands in the Bible, I am making this world a better place just by living that out. So, yeah, I don't know. Would you like me to expand more on that or
Well, basically, so you can ask, okay, what are you living for? As if a way to justify the belief. So, in other words, you're saying if you didn't believe that, or if you weren't exposed to it, you wouldn't have a reason for living that.
No, I'm not saying you wouldn't have a reason for living. It's just like I believe that because I have breath in my lungs, and because you have breath in your lungs, you have a purpose, and I have a purpose. And it says in the Bible that before we were in the womb, God knit us and knew who we were and knew the numbers of hairs on our head. And so I just truly believe that everything in our lives, whether it be good or bad or however we perceive them, it's because God has a plan that is better than ours. And if we're living in obedience to Him, our life will be better than the life we live without Him.
So it's a quality of life thing that it'll be better. So meaning you can still live just fine without it and be happy and fine.
I mean, I know some atheists that are pretty chill. That they live a comfortable life. Now, I know that they still have that God-sized hole, and some of them cope with drinking, some of them cope with women or men and lustfulness. Some of them cope with just overwatching TV shows and like distracting themselves. And it's like they have to find peace somewhere, and I don't have to find peace somewhere because I have peace in me because I have the Holy Spirit in me.
But
Does that
you
make
just
sense?
described actually that's a very well said thing, but you kind of contradicted yourself. You're saying that they need all those things, right? But you're saying you need religion the same way they need them. So in other words, the same reason why they engage in entertainment or whatever you just said is the same reason why you believe. So it doesn't mean that it's actually credible. You're just filling that same hole.
So maybe I'm not articulating well. So I don't have to do anything to obtain this peace. I have it. It's a part of me. Like I don't have to do three Hail Marys and cross myself. I don't have to do any of that. I can sit here and have peace because the Lord is with me. It's not like an action or something I watch. You know what I'm saying?
But then it is an action because for example, I don't do it. So I'm not Christian. So it would be something
Yeah.
I would have to outwardly do, isn't it?
So because I've accepted Jesus Christ, because I have the Holy Spirit in me, I can be anywhere and still have the peace of God with me without like mentally trying to, obtain it. It's like no, it's like it's in my blood almost, Like I can't take it off.
But it is still that first initial choice. You do have to outwardly make that to believe or decide that, don't you?
Yeah, it says that if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and you believe in your heart that he raised from the dead, you'll be saved. And if you commit to having a relationship with him and you repent of your sins to show that you truly obey and love God, love and those who love God obey him is what it also says in the Bible. So if you're doing those things, it shows your fruit and that you're actually living out your faith. Like there's actually change in your life that benefits others. Um, then yes, you will have the peace of God with you. I believe.
But so if we establish that it is an outward practice, because not everyone does it, not everyone
It's it.
believes it.
So it's inward practice. It's just you have to know, like kind of like any information, you know. Like some things you might not recognize about life until you learn them and then you see it everywhere. Like gravity. It's like, "Oh yeah, I do have the peace of God with me because I've accepted Christ."
But with gravity, you're exposed to it whether you believe it or not. So if you jump off a building or something, whether you believe in gravity, it's still going to affect you. In this
Mhm.
case, you might say that it's going to affect you, but like, could you prove that? Like, in what way does it affect me if I don't believe? Then okay, I might go to hell, but we can't really prove that or see that. So what's something
Oh,
it does affect me in everyday life clearly that you could show?
right. I guess I can't really compare it to someone else because I don't have the same life experience as someone else. But I'll just say, like, in my darkest times, in the moments I wish I wasn't around there, in the moments I wish never happened, I felt broken, but I also felt like God was right there with me. And I knew he was, and there was no doubt in my mind that I was being comforted by him and that I was not alone. And there's been so many times where I felt so alone, but God was there with me. Does that make sense?
So if that's again, unfortunately, an emotional argument though, because if you take that emotion away from it, so you're doing it again from a place of need or desire that it comforts you, not so much from a rational state that it's actually true, or like is it important for it to be true, or is it okay if it's just peace of
No,
mind that it gives you?
it's important that it's true. It's definitely important that it's true because like why would I live my life differently if I didn't believe? in Jesus Christ and that he is who he says he is.
Well, I could see it as a similar, like a moral argument. Like, okay, so do you believe? Well, you believe morals come from God, I guess. But like, so if I say, okay, morals are just man-made constructs and they're made up, right?
Yeah.
But we could still abide by them because it could be useful so people don't go around killing each other. That's why we have laws. So without the need for God, we have laws, we can have morals, we can do all these things without believing them to be absolute, but on a more practical, like functional basis. Okay, it's useful to do this, but that doesn't make it absolute or true.
Mm. So somebody told me once, like, do you teach a child to lie to their parents? And everybody says no. You don't teach a child to lie to their parents. They just kind of do it at some point. And that's just a small, small representation of how we as humans are inherently kind of bad, even when we just grow up as children. And so, like, showing that there's badness in us, the reason we have morals, in my view, that I truly believe, is because God is completely good. And we want to be more like Christ as Christians, but also in our moral compass, we want more of what God wants for us, even if you're not a Christian. It aligns with, like, there are no laws against these things, is what it says about the fruits of the Spirit, which are just characteristics of a good Christian, of someone like Jesus, essentially. Or it's more so like what we're trying to strive for, and be like. So there's no law against these things, is what it says. So just
These
as
things meaning what?
love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. And I just learned those because I was a little kid in Sunday school. You don't have to like memorize a lot of stuff in the Bible. It's not required. I'm just so blessed because I did grow up uh in church, and so it was nice.
Are those like the anti-sins, like the seven deadly sins, like the virtues?
So as so since I'm not Catholic and I'm not Orthodox or anything like that, and I'm Protestant, I don't believe in the seven deadly sins. I think that's really an interesting concept, but like all sins are equal. I will say though, like all of the fruits of the spirit do help you combat sins. You're totally right. Like, um, I actually made a paper about this in high school. I was like, okay, every fruit of the spirit kind of combats other sins, like you know, love, not hating, not killing, not being mean to people, joy, not being sorrowful all the time, peace, not being reckless, patience, not being impatient and violent, so those are just some representations, I guess.
All things that you could do though without needing to be religious, right? People can still do them. But no, like what would be something that would disprove it to you, hypothetically?
Would disprove what?
And then you can ask me like what would be something that proves it to me that it is true? Like disprove your faith to you that it's not real. If
Okay.
we find some document that says, "Oh, this is some leader planning all this and
Mm,
whatever, Jesus writing that, oh, I'm tricking everybody and I sure fooled them," right? Like, what would it take to convince you?
mm. I don't think there's anything. I'm sorry.
No, no,
There's
I mean,
really
even if
nothing.
it was something factual or
Yeah.
concrete.
Well, even if it was factual or concrete, even if even if someone said they completely proved something about, you know, the New Testament or Old Testament being wrong or whatever, I would just question that and I would say that's not what the Bible says, so never mind. And I wouldn't think twice about it, honestly. But what would be something that would make you believe?
Yeah, see, I'm kind of reject the whole thing of like the details because you hear that with every faith. So if I did have a discussion with a like when they use the teachings as the argument, but we're looking at it from a base objective standpoint, like you're an outsider to it, you don't know any of that.
Yeah.
So the argument is like you have to be initiated to it in order to take it seriously. But like
Okay.
pretend you're trying to convince an outsider who knows nothing about it.
Right.
They don't, then you can't just go into your spiel about, oh, here's this, the Bible says this. But why should we take the Bible seriously? So
Okay,
I don't
well,
know that there's anything that would really convince me because it would be competing against, okay, I have this conversation with you, then I discuss the same thing with a Muslim, and they tell their teachings and how they're right and how their book says they're right, and you should believe it because it says you should believe it. So they'll
mhm,
all say the same thing.
right. So the Quran was written way after the Bible was written. So that's one thing that you can take just so you know. But that's a great point. Well, I think with the Bible, everything is historically accurate in the Bible. Everything lines up, the
We're gonna
dates,
have to read it together and put that to the
the
test.
dates, the genealogies, like the line of David, the kings, like literally there are historical books where they take passages from the Bible to show as history. So, hey, can you actually would you mind looking up on YouTube? You can decide this. But a case for Christ proving the life of Jesus scene or something.
Yeah, we can watch this a different time in full probably, but
It might not be that long. I don't know.
playing in 16 minutes. But let me just look it up
No.
like on
Oh,
Google.
that clip, I think.
Oh, is it
Maybe. Down.
this one? Oh,
It was a movie.
oh, is it this one?
Yes, but I'm not sure if that's just the trailer or the specific scene.
But like this is based on a true story.
Yes, it is based off a true story.
2017 Christian drama film. Oh, Fate Unaware. Atheist journalist who tries to disprove his wife's Christian faith. Saying Jesus had to have died on the cross. But again, see, do they have his body there when they're doing that? Like, it's hard to have evidence when it happened so long ago. Also investigating the case of shooting a police officer. So you're saying, what if that court had ruled then that he's right and Jesus doesn't exist? Would you accept its ruling then?
I don't know.
You would only
I don't-
accept it if it reinforces what you believe.
Well, that's a good question. I think I just believe so hard, you know?
Oh, is this maybe it?
I think yeah.
Can you state your name and occupation for the court?
My name is Lee Strobel. I'm a professor of Christian thought at Houston Baptist University and the author of more than 20 books about Christianity, including The Case for Christ.
Can you help me prove the existence of Jesus Christ?
Absolutely, beyond any reasonable doubt.
How so?
Actually, this court already affirmed it when we were called into session and the date was given. Our calendar has been split between BC and AD based on the birth of Jesus, which is quite a feat if he never existed. Beyond that, historian Gary Habermas lists 39 ancient sources for Jesus, from which he enumerates more than 100 reported facts about his life, teachings, crucifixion, and resurrection. In fact, the historical evidence for Jesus' execution is so strong that one of the most famous New Testament scholars in the world, Gerd Ludemann of Germany, said Jesus' death as a consequence of crucifixion is indisputable. Now, there are very few facts in ancient history that a critical historian like Gerd Ludemann will say is indisputable. One of them is the execution of Jesus Christ.
Forgive me, but you're a believer, are you not? A Bible-believing Christian?
Guilty as charged.
So, wouldn't this tend to inflate your estimate of the probability that Jesus existed?
No, because we don't need to inflate it. We can reconstruct the basic facts about Jesus just from non-Christian sources outside the Bible. And Gerd Ludemann is an atheist. In other words, we can prove the existence of Jesus solely by using sources that have absolutely no sympathy toward Christianity. As the agnostic historian Bart Ehrman says, Jesus did exist, whether we like it or not. I put it this way: denying the existence of Jesus doesn't make him go away. It merely proves that no amount of evidence will convince you.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
What do you think
So
about that?
my main thing with that would be, I feel like he's just saying that Jesus was a real person and he existed, right? That's what he's talking about.
I think that's the main point for that scene.
So the problem with that is, okay, what if I said, I don't dispute that at all, right? Like, okay, he was a person, but what if I just dispute one thing? Okay, he didn't come back to life, or that doesn't mean that everything to do with his life is accurate, right?
Mhm.
Like to do with the faith and everything like that. Okay, he was a real person. But so what? That doesn't mean that he's God or the Son of God, right? So everything he said didn't prove anything to do with the faith. It proves, okay, he's a real person. But
Mm,
not everything said about every real person is true, right? That would be
right.
like if I took Alexander the Great and everything written about him isn't true, or, when things are embellished or propaganda or whatever,
Yeah.
not everything about a real historical figure is accurate.
Hmm. Well, that's interesting. I guess I would say like so whenever Jesus was growing up, he was traveling with his parents and Jesus went into the city and he started teaching at the temple. And he was 11 or 12 years old. And he had no education beyond just what his father had taught him about being a carpenter, I believe. And so, he completely started teaching to these teachers and they were like in awe. They were like, "What? This boy is talking about God so eloquently. Like he's teaching us stuff we don't know and we've been, reading the Bible, the Old Testament Bible for years and like studying it." And so then Mary came and saw Jesus and said, "No, it's time to go." And then she told him, "It's not your time yet. You have to wait." And so like don't reveal who you are yet. You have to wait for your proper time. And but that was like his first ministry moment, I believe.
What would you say about this clearly unbiased Wikipedia article? There is no scholarly
Wikipedia
consensus.
is Wikipedia is very, very unreliable. I'm not sure. Okay,
There's
go
no
ahead and read
scholarly
it.
consensus concerning the I don't know how to say this, historicity of most elements of Jesus' life. Only two key elements of the biblical story are accepted, both the crucifixion and the criterion of embarrassment, his baptism by John the Baptist. Uh, so the supernatural elements, like miracles and resurrection, are deemed to be solely a matter of faith or theology or lack thereof.
What do you want me to say?
What is your response to that?
Oh, okay. I guess my response is it's Wikipedia. But okay, I'll give you a serious thing. Well,
Well,
I
it's
think that's
from
pretty
somewhere too,
interesting.
but
So it does say that that Jesus actually died, so that's good. So I believe that's yes. And then what does it say about miracles? So he fed like 5,000 people with two fish and a piece of bread, right?
but see, you say that, but how do you prove that? You just
I can't
say it.
prove it because I mean, it was a long time ago. I was not even alive. But it's just, there's so much of the Bible where he did these things with so many people watching him and following him. And it's just beautiful. And I just don't think that it would last. I don't think it would last this well. I don't know. Because we talked a little bit about how the Bible came together before. It's like 60 different authors and all this crazy stuff. But
that's by virtue of it being a collection of people's letters. So that wouldn't be necessarily a positive or negative. It's like the Bible is a collection of letters, right?
it's a collection of letters and people like keeping a log essentially of life and poems and literature and history. So there's different categories of books. So there's like historical books, there's laws, books of law in the Old Testament a lot. And yeah, the poetry ones, and then the gospels, which is like talking about Jesus's life. And then there's letters to the different churches, yeah.
So the point is, if that's how it was written, it was a collection of letters and different sources, then of
And
course it would be
prophecies.
written by different people. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's kind of a self-fulfilling. That's what the people who wrote it or compiled it chose to do.
Yeah.
So they
Right.
could have left out anything that would contradict or not agree with what they want, right? They
Yeah.
would exclude any letters that say something bad about Jesus or say he's not real or something like that, right?
I guess we would deem those as heresy.
So it's sort of self-fulfilling then, right? Because
I think if you know Jesus and you have a relationship with him, you'll see things that talk about him. Just like if you had a best friend. If somebody said your best friend was a complete jerk and, you know, punched them in the face or flipped them off, for example. I know my best friend would not do that to this person. It's just like that. So like I know Jesus and I have a relationship with him. And so in the Bible, if there's another book added to the Bible or if I read something else that's supposed to be talking about Jesus and I'm like that is not true at all because I have a relationship with him. I know him. So when I read something that's off, I know. Does that make sense?
yeah, but like so why do you even use then the word God? Because that's general as opposed to just well, can you use Jesus as God or it's the Son of God? So
Yes. I can use Jesus as God because it's like the same different but it's same.
but no, like why use the word God then? Why not only use Jesus? Because God could refer to any other religion or anything generally.
Um because I think like for us, obviously he's the one God and other religions have gods, but we believe like in God the Father. We believe in Yahweh is the name in Hebrew. Um but yeah, God is God. There are little g gods, which are like little spirits and stuff. It actually says in the Bible, I was listening to a podcast, it was like the rulers and demons of the earth were punished or something. And it was talking about the spirits of the land, like the Greek gods or whatever. And so yeah, I guess we could say God because he's the creator God. He's the only God um, in the Christian beliefs.
But when somebody else says it, does that bother you? So every other religion says it too, just God generally.
It doesn't bother me. I'll just say like, "Oh, what do you believe in about God?" And then they'll say like, "Oh, I believe in Allah or something." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I believe in the God of the Bible, Jesus Christ." And it's a civil conversation, but I understand what you're saying. Now, if somebody's talking about Jesus Christ and they're representing him poorly and they're not talking about him in the light that he should be represented in, then that does bother me.
Okay, let's watch one of these. Gratitude is God's will in every circumstance. Have you seen this exact one?
I haven't, but we can
Okay.
watch it.
Listen to this. This is the will of God, he says. That is, this is God's purpose, his plan, his will for every single one of his children. That is, that you and I are to give thanks to God in every circumstance and no exception. In everything, if I ask you, isolated from this message, what does everything include? You would say what? Everything. So that means all of my pain, hurt, suffering, sorrow, difficulty, losses, pleasures, in everything, I'm to give thanks. Now, he doesn't give us any instructions how to do that. So what is the key to that? If I'm to give thanks, as he says, in every single thing, it's easy, for example, to give thanks in your house when there's a new baby born, or when you have a new home or a new car and you're going on a vacation. Lots of things to be thankful for. But what about the suffering, the heartaches, the trials, the difficulties, and things we don't understand? You have to put both those in the same bucket, because he says we're to give thanks in everything.
So this is the fallacy I talked about the one time where so you're having a flood and you're dying and your house is being destroyed by a natural disaster. And so you either don't blame God for that, even though he's all powerful, or you're even by what he's saying, you're supposed to thank him even in that circumstance. Thank you for flooding my house and killing my family.
No. No, you don't have to thank him for things you're not grateful for.
But he
Um,
said in everything, he said it.
in everything, yeah, it does say in everything. I wish we could see more context of what he's saying. But yeah, I don't think it's not saying thank you God for flooding my house. Maybe thank you God for keeping me alive. Thank you God for saving my cat, you know? Like seeing essentially like okay, even an
Listen to this.
atheist can say,
This would
I want to see the
include, you
bright
would
side
say,
of
hurt,
things, you know?
suffering,
Because he says hurt, pain, suffering, sorrow, difficulty, losses.
Yeah, even in those things. Not for those things necessarily. Now it does say in the
sorrow,
Bible
difficulty,
to be
losses, pleasures, in everything, I'm to give thanks.
In everything. So you're saying it more generally, like you're to give thanks to him generally, not for those exact things
yeah,
happening.
yeah. You don't have to be like, thank you God for putting a fire on my house. Like, no, you don't have to say stuff like that. Now, yeah, again, like in those situations, still being grateful for the good, which even atheists say like, oh, look at the bright side. You know, it's kind of like that, but you're looking on, okay, what did God bless me with, even if there's something that's inconvenient.
Do you know who this guy is?
I don't really know him.
Uh, this might actually upset you a little. He's very controversial. Let
That's
me see
okay.
what he says. He is Christian, though, I think, or he always talks about religion always. What is something that has to do with it? Um, like, yeah, what if there's people who give Christianity a
Yeah.
bad name, like a criminal who happen to be Christian, or to even say that they do it in the name of it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's not good.
But I mean, what
Um,
do you feel? You would disavow them? You would discredit them?
I would definitely say like, well, even people I've known that were saying things about Jesus that's just not a good representation of him, I will call out and be like, you're not supposed to talk about my God that way. Like, that's not okay. Um, but if it was even at a bigger extent, like obviously I'm a little girl, I'm not gonna fight some guy. But I think I would definitely try and stand up for what is true in that situation.
Or like, yeah, this one. So this is an atheist person. We can look at this quickly.
With me.
Like most actually statistics different than the right from wrong of people in Iraq.
Is it wrong to hate your fellow man?
I don't feel that that is good for other people or yourself.
Is it wrong?
For me personally, yes.
Is it wrong, period?
I don't believe that there is a period objective wrong for everyone as a whole.
Okay, so this is a common discussion that comes up is like, is morality like absolute or objective? Or
Right.
so you would say it is because it comes from God, so that's right.
I think hating people is wrong. Yeah.
No, but I mean like morality in general, like to kill people or whatever, like something that would be wrong or sinful. Is that
Right.
objective and absolute, or is it a human man-made construct for convenience or
I think it's objective and absolute, but there are definitely like situations such as I always use this example, like people hiding the Jews whenever the Nazis were coming to try and kill them. Like, because those people lied, God did not see that as sinful. They were protecting life, you know? So there's situations like that, but as a whole, like, yes, I think morality should be objective. There is right and there is wrong.
And so if you consider it objective or absolute or inherent, would you be comfortable using all those terms to describe it?
Um, I don't know about inherent, but I would say morality should be objective. Like,
Not about should be. Objective means that it just is.
it is objective. I know some people don't believe that. Like they believe, you know, my real and your real are different, but
So the problem with that, though, is okay, it's subjective or it's absolute, right? You would use those terms.
what do you mean? So I use objective and subjective.
No, no.
Am I saying
You would say
are you
morality
am
is
I
objective.
flipping those?
You would say
Subjective is
no, no. You would say
well,
it's objective, right?
objective means it stays the same, right?
Or that it's not based on human opinion, like it's an
Yeah.
absolute.
Yes. And then subjective is if it changes based on what you want.
Or it's an opinion, basically.
Yeah. I think it's objective. Like morality is objective because I I just don't see situational morals as morals. It's just kind of like whatever you feel in the moment, kind of if you think it's that way, you know.
What would you, or you would, and would it, you say they're absolute morals?
Morals are absolute. Yeah.
Okay. So then on a historical basis, if you look at history, how can you explain then the untold amounts of massacres and horrible things that you would consider immoral, surely? How do you explain those then?
Ever?
Like
A
the
lot,
majority of human history is a lot of
a lot of
subjugation and
killing. I know, man. I was just, oh my gosh, I was at this museum where it just showed a lot of death in war, literally 2 days ago. I'm pretty sure I got sick because my immune system was so shot from crying so much at the museum. But okay, so what I would say to that is, um, and I know you're gonna be like, ugh, and roll your eyes, but sin and selfishness and greed, those are all things that make people pursue killing, pursue violence. And so, like, this isn't just out of nowhere. Does that make sense?
yeah, but like my thing is you would say it's subjective or absolute, but those things happen anyway, right? So your definition of absolute or objective is it can still happen.
Well, I'm saying wrong is wrong and right is right. If you choose wrong, it's still wrong. You know what I'm saying?
But the choice there, you say, is subjective. Like it's subjectively, or a person can subjectively choose to do something wrong, and they can still do it. So the fact that it's subjectively wrong doesn't stop a subjective person from still doing it.
Like, we have free will. I believe killing someone is bad, and I believe not killing someone is good. If you choose to kill someone, I believe it's bad, but you can still choose it, you know?
So that sounds very subjective because you're saying you believe it, but someone else can believe something different. So that's their subjective opinion, and then they can still
Well,
act on it.
I think someone could believe killing people's wrong and still kill people.
But let's say they believe it's right then.
I would just believe they're wrong.
But so that's still a subjective discourse of two people believing different things. So it's
Yeah.
subjective.
I see what you're saying. I think I think we're trying to communicate similar things in different languages, maybe. Maybe not. But what I'm trying to say is I believe there's right and wrong, and I believe it's right and wrong for everyone. And people believe different than me. And there's grace for that, right? It's like, okay, well, they didn't know. It's like, okay, well, they didn't know. So it's also a big thing is like Christianity is not about judging people. Like a lot of people think, oh, you're a Christian. yeah, I've done some bad things. Like,
But
it's
sending
okay if
them to
you.
hell if they don't believe, that's not a form of judgment.
Well, it's not about that. It's just about like loving people, but also, yes, to have a relationship with Jesus is how you have the opportunity to have a relationship with God. So I just
Or
think like I think Jesus it's just the best thing. Like I can't explain it enough. And it makes me frustrated because I'm like, I wish you were infected by the joy I've had by becoming a Christian and understanding who Christ is. But yeah. Do you have a Charlie Kirk video pulled up?
oh no, I was just looking up that subject, but no, I'm saying generally, still the objective wouldn't objective or absolute mean then that it couldn't happen. Like, okay, the laws of nature or God say that it's absolutely wrong, therefore it cannot happen. Why isn't that the case?
No, because we have free will. So like because we have free will, it means we can do whatever we want, essentially, even if it's wrong. So I can say objectively, bad things are bad. But since we have free will, even I can do bad things.
I think it's a semantics problem because free will would be subjective then. So a person can subjectively defy something that's supposedly objective, which means it's not
Yeah.
objective.
Yes, I think I agree with what you're saying.
So that's not objective.
So I would say morality is a circle, and there's a circle of good, and we're little dots, and we can go wherever we want, but it's a circle. Like there is morality, and then there's being immoral, and you can decide where to be, I guess.
So you can subjectively decide not to be moral.
Yes. So I think I misunderstood what you were asking. I think morals do not change. Morals are still there. They don't change based off of your circumstance or your desires or behaviors.
But so if you're starving and you steal something from a rich person who has plenty, that doesn't make it okay versus if you're just stealing for pleasure or some other circumstance.
I think stealing is wrong, but I think like that's where we go back to judgment. Like, who am I to judge? I'm nobody. I do bad things. So I wouldn't judge them for it. But then I would also think to myself, why haven't I helped this person? Like, how terrible and how thoughtless am I? But I understand what you're saying on the other end of that as well.
But it's just like more that object. This conversation comes up a lot. Like, is it if it's objective or absolute?
I mean, think
Why
about
do
it
you
like that.
need?
Yeah. What
Go ahead.
sports do you like? Do you have a certain sport that you enjoy?
Not really.
Not really. Me neither. But okay, let's use basketball. So basketball, there's a set of rules, but people cheat. Morality is a set of rules. It's there, and you're supposed to be around it, you know? But people still cheat. That's probably the best analogy I can give.
So it's up to the subjective whims of people. So all it would take to defy an absolute thing would be just, oh, someone decides to do something different.
I don't really know what you mean. Sorry.
Like the word absolute means what to you?
Like it stays the same.
But people can change it at their will if they feel.
Yeah, I don't believe they can change it at their will.
But they can defy it, at least.
Defy it? Yes. They can defy it. They can do the opposite of what should be done. Like that's what sin is.
But see, like, should be attached as a subjective tone to it. It
Mm.
just, what is changing from, like, okay, let's say 1,000 years from now, everyone just decides to do something wrong together and whatever. So that, what good is the absolute or the objective if everyone just doesn't do it? And if that's all it takes, people can just choose not to do it.
Because I think morality is there for the betterment of the world, like each of us as individuals. And so after doing wrong or committing wrong things, there's always guilt. There's always guilt. You always know if you've done something immoral. There's never a time where it's like you do something immoral and there's nothing, unless you're, you know, unless there's certain circumstances, maybe chemical reactions that just didn't happen. Like I don't know. I don't know how to explain that, but I do believe that morality is for the benefit of the world, not just the individual.
I don't know. I just feel like it's a bad semantics thing because you're saying one thing, but it doesn't.
I wish I could articulate it better. Let me think. Okay, so
Let's
I
see what they
believe.
say about it.
There's no
Okay, okay.
objective morality.
Exactly. If there is no God, thank you, sir, there's no objective morality, which means subjectively, I don't appreciate it when my friends are murdered. But that's just a subjective feeling, which means it's just as legitimate for someone to say, well, the murder of certain people is appropriate and good. It's all relative, fundamentally, objectively true, which is a human being has innate value, and if you murder Matthew Shepard, if you murder a Jew, if you murder a black person because of racism, because of homophobia, because of hatred, that is absolutely evil.
There's no objective morality.
Yeah,
So you would agree with that?
that objective morality is true. Yeah.
But what good is it then if people still do it anyway? Some people at least.
Um, I think it's still important because we have that standard. Like even if people are breaking the standard or they're living below it, we still have, you know, in our nature, we know that life has value. We know that, you know, being selfless, opening the door for people, like being kind matters. We know those things, and it's in our nature to care. And but we also have sinful nature. So that's where we live below the moral compass, right?
But it doesn't break the impression of an absolute that somebody or people can not do it. That's the thing that seems contradictory. It's absolute, which implies a state like a unquestionable, just it's absolute. But yet people subjectively still don't do it, do other things.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, well, it's not like we're robots, right? We don't have that programmed to only be morally good. So I think there are morals, and we all have the specific morals, right? And then there are some morals that we have based off different convictions or whatever. I would say those are virtues, right? But I think the moral compass of a human, if they have the correct chemical balances, if they're not like literally psychopaths, they will know that life has value and everything else kind of falls from that. So yeah, that's my belief. If someone acts against those things, they're living outside of the moral compass. I'm not saying that they can't. Like anyone can make any decisions they want, but I believe there's right and there's wrong.
But
People make the wrong decisions also.
you wouldn't take issue with the use of that word though.
What?
Absolute, but yet people can still do it. Subjectively, they can just choose to do it. So that's like if I say the need to breathe oxygen is absolute, and then I subjectively choose I want to do something different, but I'll die because I need oxygen. It's not the same as that because oh,
Okay.
I can choose to do something different despite it being an absolute.
I guess I just wouldn't use the word absolute because I guess I just didn't understand what you were trying to say. It's objective.
But that's the same. It's kind of the same thing. Like okay, if nature
Well,
is
it's not like
objective,
it's not like our default mode. It's not like the only thing we can do, but it is what is right.
but that's what those words imply. Objective or absolute would imply no matter what a
Yeah.
person does, they wouldn't be able to do it because it's objective or absolute. It wouldn't be up
Okay.
to the subjective whims of a person.
But you can still choose good.
You can choose good, but you wouldn't be able to not do that if it was absolute the way that you were saying.
I feel like this is a circular argument
Well, it's just okay. But
because
those words
I
are
think
kind of
I'm agreeing with you. We're just using different words. I'm pretty sure.
no, but it's the key difference is again, it's if hmm, if it was
Even if
absolute, you wouldn't need people to enforce it with laws, right? Wouldn't God strike them down with a bolt of lightning? That could be an absolute outside of human subjective control, or we wouldn't be able to do it in the first place. We physically wouldn't be able to do it. That could be an
well, God,
absolute.
yeah, but God doesn't want to do that. Like that's why He gave us free will, like that we can make our own decisions. So He's not going to strike down everyone because they use their free will incorrectly.
Okay, one. Let's do one more. Pick one or whatever, some subject or some other person.
I kind of want to see what Charlie Kirk has to say.
I don't know if that's to do with it though. Like, or let's look at the same one. This one just kind of bothers me because it seems
Are
so
you an atheist?
obvious.
Sorry to interrupt, but
Oh yeah, yeah.
okay, cool. So let me just, can I ask you a question? And I don't mean, I know this is your first time at the mic, so I'm just going to try to be tender in doing this.
Okay, appreciate
So
that.
you don't believe in objective morality, right?
I personally don't.
Okay. Was the Holocaust objectively wrong?
Objectively, no, but it'd been better if it didn't happen because most people wouldn't want that to happen.
So that's where we are on different planets. And that's okay. I'm not trying to make fun of you. I'm trying to be graceful in the way that we're going about this. Do you think Hitler was objectively evil?
No, because it's subjective.
But I just hope all of you guys understand he's being an honest atheist to your credit, because as an atheist, you're not allowed to say anything is objectively right or wrong. I come from a worldview that when you butcher 6 million people, that is objectively wrong no matter what. And it's very important. It's a very important truth claim, because when you do not have objective truth anchoring your society, then it becomes a power struggle. If you do not have truth, then power will reign. Whoever can get the most amount of power then ends up having the most amount of say over society.
Wouldn't that be the reality though of the horrible thing they're talking about that happened? That certain people had that power over society, and that's why it was able to happen, despite it being objectively wrong, right?
Yeah.
So what would you counter that with?
What are you trying to say?
Like he just said, it without absolute or objective morality, it comes down to whoever has the most power in society. Well, at that event that they're talking about, certain people did have certain power in society, and that's why it was able to happen. So, what would you say? So, what does objective morality do in that situation?
I think it's objectively wrong, right? The Holocaust was objectively wrong. Anybody that's sane should be able to say that, which maybe that's insulting, I'm sorry. But
But see, I'd be more concerned with the result. I could say that, but that didn't stop it from happening. So,
right,
what good is that?
right. So I guess I see what you're saying. Like it didn't stop it from happening. I think again with the standard thing, like there's good and there's bad, and we know what's bad just based off of what it is. Like if I ran over a cat today, what would your reaction be?
Negative.
Yeah, because that's sad, right? So we have that moral understanding of what is good and what is bad, even if it's on a small scale.
But okay, let's see the rest.
We believe what is objectively right, true, good, and beautiful should be transcendent over society. Your thoughts?
So do you believe objective morality specifically comes from the Bible?
Yes and no. It's in nature, and the Bible explains nature. So objective morality can be discovered in many different cultures and societies, pointing towards what we believe is the ultimate objective truth, Jesus Christ. C.S. Lewis explained this the best in his book Abolition of Man, which is that almost every religion talks about a certain way to live, a Tao or a path that we should be on. And so more simply than just the Bible, we believe in what the founders believed, which is an ethical monotheism, that there is one God. He has a general way that he wants you to live. For example, murdering is bad, kidnapping is wrong, defense of the innocent, and we should do our best to try to live alongside of that path.
Okay, well, I think those are very interesting examples. You bring up the founders, you bring up Hitler, but Hitler was a self-proclaimed Catholic, and he called Nazism a Christian movement.
Yeah, I would be careful saying that. He was not. That's okay.
He called himself a Catholic. He specifically said in 1927, our movement is Christian. They had on the belt buckles God on our side.
Yeah,
they had to swear to the Almighty God. Atheists were not trusted to be in the SS.
Even if I grant you that, despite the fact that he killed a lot of pastors and priests, and there, of course, you can pervert things in the name of God. No one denounces that. Just as a side note, though, far more people died under the banner of atheism than Christianity in the 20th century. Are you an atheist? Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what final thoughts?
Man, that's really sad, right? That like people would even consider putting Hitler as a Christian, because that's all of that is so against the Bible. It says
But if
that
he said
Jesus,
that, what would that mean? If he said that,
who
Hitler.
Hitler, I would believe he doesn't actually understand Jesus. He doesn't actually understand the gospel. If he was so hateful to do all those terrible things to people, because that's totally against the Bible. Like Jesus speaks life, not death. Like caring for others, being selfless, all of those things. And the Holocaust was none of those things. It was the opposite. It was selfish. It was disgusting and disturbing. And he was power hungry, and he just wanted to show how powerful um, he was. And I'm sure he had other motives as well. I haven't studied it a whole lot, but the times I have, I just remember it being really, really hard to grasp.
But the idea there is that it can be misused or perverted, like you said, right? Like anybody can just do something and attribute it to a religion. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
that the religion is to blame for it or they would vouch for it, but
Well, I think one difference would be like there are certain traditions in like the Muslim culture where acts of violence were a way they praised their God. And so in retaliation of that, like Christianity, that's never been a thing. We are
the
not gonna
Crusades,
well, we're not gonna sacrifice children or kill other people from different religions as worship. Like, absolutely not.
what about
Now
the Crusades?
the Crusades, those were a messy time. I can't even lie. I'm so annoyed that that happened. I was talking to God about it literally on Friday. I was like, God, this is ridiculous. Like, why would this happen? And again, it was a power struggle. People were being sinful. All of that was happening due to sin, not because they were close to Jesus. They weren't acting like Jesus in those circumstances, but they were calling themselves Christians. So it was like a terrible representation of Christ's love because they weren't being loving at all.
But they were doing it in the name of that.
Yeah, which
Well,
makes it even worse in my view. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's still people that are like that are like rude to Catholics if they're Protestant or rude to Protestants if they're Catholic. And I'm just like, this is not the love of Jesus. Why are you acting like this? And it says that the path is narrow. And so I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what to say to people that are super, super, I don't know. I just don't think that's acting like Christ wants us to.
yeah, sorry, we always go over a little bit.
It's okay. I just like talking to you, so this is nice.
I hope you don't get offended or anything by
No,
anything.
I don't even know what time it is. And honestly, I just try and keep 2 hours open. That way I have some time to think.
No, I mean like I hope you don't get offended by the discussion or the debate.
Oh, no. It's cool. It's cool. I know we disagree, and that's fine. I'm never gonna be offended.
I don't even look at it as a disagreement though. I'm more so just questioning and just
Yeah, yeah.
kind of holding it accountable. So what would you say last point on that objective thing? So what is so what is the difference ultimately then if religion was subjective or morality was subjective versus it being objective? Right, last take is yours. If it was subjective, what would that mean? That people could do whatever they wanted. And if it's objective, people can still do whatever they want.
So I guess the difference from what I can see, if morality was subjective, anyone could argue what they believe or what they want in a certain situation is the right thing. And then because it's objective, people can't always argue that their view is the right thing because that's not true all the time. So I think truth is protected in the objective morality, and then it's easy to twist things in the subjective reality. So, like, I killed a 4-year-old because she made me mad and stole something. That would be a subjective thing. Oh, well, the 4-year-old made me mad. Oh, okay. Subjective reality, we'll see. Objective reality, that's bad. That's not okay, right? So,
But then you would say like just it's like um I don't know. It's just it doesn't stop subjective actions or what you said. People will can argue that their view is right. You don't think that's what happens throughout history, or that's what people do all the time? Like they use some pretense of morals or goodness, but to achieve their own agenda, like in politics or other things. So they
yeah.
do say their subjective is they are arguing for their subjective view.
Mhm. Yeah, I think people argue for their subjective view all the time with whatever actions they're trying to justify. Even like cheating on their spouse. They'll say like, "Oh, well, they weren't treating me right," or "Oh, well, I just felt so much loved by this other person." It's like, "No, that is wrong. There's nothing you can say to justify that." And so, to me, there's trying to justify your negative stance that's not right, and that would be subjective.
Or is it just not that it's still subjective, it's just a mass of people holding you accountable for it, like using laws and courts and social stigma. So it's still subjective, it's just a bigger group of people.
I can see what you're saying. I think there are the big things are objective. I think maybe smaller things are less so. I don't know. I would need a more specific situation to give. But I think like cheating on your spouse, morally objective, that's wrong. Objectively killing someone is wrong.
But
Um
then it relies on subjective human devices like courts, laws, police, who make
to
mistakes.
enforce them, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And I guess like it says in the Bible that laws keep us accountable and like government keeps us accountable. So I don't know. I get that because non-believers are not necessarily trying to live more like Jesus. So if the law is what needs them to be accountable, then that's what we need, you know?
Or you said that something there is no law though, right? Earlier.
Yeah, against the things that Jesus wants to live what wants us to live like. There are no laws against living like a Christian.
What if when slavery was supported by the law, like in the United States, for example,
Well, still living like a Christian, there was no laws against that.
there was a law against freeing slaves? Wouldn't that be
So that's a really interesting thought too, because like slavery happened for almost all of time, right? And so like slavery wasn't a new thing and it definitely wasn't just Christians that did it. And so honestly, I think slaves if we didn't have slavery like our country I don't even know I don't even know what it would look like. And I'm so glad obviously that Abraham Lincoln, stood up what was right and all that. Um but there are actually a bunch of testaments of people that were on the Underground Railroad that freed slaves, and they were Christians, and they just wanted, people to be set free.
but the
But
question
I guess
was,
that was
is the law you said there can't be laws against Christianity, but that would be one that was law, that was enshrined in law. So wasn't
I
that
think
against Christianity?
I don't think it was against the fruits of the spirit because I think that's like actions versus like that's a whole I don't know how to explain that. It's just different because so love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Don't whip don't whip someone. It's just how you treat them. It's not like, okay, I need to let you go. Because actually, some of the slaves, they had no resources. If they had been let go, they wouldn't have had homes, they wouldn't have had food, they wouldn't have had their families. I'm not saying it was a great thing. It's like, it's not a great thing, but partially the good masters, the good people, were actually looking after the slaves and providing for them. I'm not justifying all
That's
slavery,
kind of a
absolutely
bad
not.
argument because they're only in
Yeah.
that situation because they are slaves.
Well, I'm just saying, this is what I'm trying to say. Sorry. I know this could be taken out of context and that would look really bad for me, so I'm hoping you
No,
wouldn't
no,
edit
it'll be
this to
all
make.
together. It'll be fine.
Okay, okay. Well, okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is with that, it's not that's not asking people to not live like Jesus and how
But
you treat people.
the question was only specifically about laws. You said laws can be necessary to help people who are non-believers live like Christians, right?
Well, have a moral compass, like have a moral law, have consequences, yeah.
But laws can be subjective and can be wrong. Like I gave an example that at one point it was supported by the law to have slaves and against the law to free them, just as an example of some law that could be wrong. So those same laws that you're saying could be a reflection or some validation of religion, I guess, or Christianity. Those same laws can be wrong themselves or subjectively inconsistent with Christianity.
I see what you're saying. So, yes, but treating people with kindness is not illegal. I think that's what it was trying to say, because it's talking about the fruits of the spirit.
But what would you say about a law like that? Like, how does that come to be if it's against?
I just don't think that's I just don't think that's so that's a really great question. I don't really know how to answer that right now because I know slavery was throughout history, and I wish that was something we could change, but like it did happen. And I
Okay,
don't
but don't get
think.
distracted by that. I'm saying a hypothetical law could exist in a government in the society that we live in that is wrong. It's just straight out. You would
Okay.
disagree with it. You would say it goes against Christianity. So how do you reconcile that with?
Well, okay, that's a good point too. It could have just been saying there is no law within the laws of that day. Could be true. But I truly think like the fruits of the spirit, there should be no laws against it. It just doesn't make sense because that would be within the moral compass that everyone should have some sort of understanding of. Does that make sense?
So if tomorrow somebody outlaws somehow, or certain countries maybe do outlaw certain religions, or they make women
Yeah.
wear the whatever something
Right.
over their head and things like that. How do
So
those
there are
laws exist?
right. No, there are plenty of countries that don't even allow Christianity. So in that sense, it's like it was in that passage. I could even pull it up if you wanted, but it's just talking about the fruits of the spirit, which are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So it's not talking about Christianity as a whole. It's talking about virtues. So like there should be no laws against those virtues. Now there are people that won't follow those virtues, but it's just not illegal to be kind is essentially what it's trying to say. Or at least it wasn't against the laws of the Bible even. So like the 10 commandments, those are also the laws that were important. Are important.
But basically, laws that exist in government and society can be wrong according to your faith.
Yes.
But yet,
Yes.
let's say you still live in that society then. So how do you reconcile that?
So like there are people that have secret churches where in countries that don't allow Christianity and don't allow Bible studies and stuff like that. And so I guess that would be an example. Like we believe God first, then family, and then everything else kind of droops behind it. So like I would say that there's some people that uh have a lot of confliction when joining the military if they are Christian, because it's like country first, then God, then family, and it's like no, nope, we have God, then country, then family, and I don't even put country up there because I just never think about that, but yeah,
Are you like
so I
not
guess
allowed to do that to some extent?
no, I could, I just think like our faith, it's like God is above all, and we believe in like, idols are not good. So you could even idolize like if yeah, like what you're saying, if the governor or something said, we needed to do something that was sinful to stay living in Texas or wherever you live. And if we had to do that to stay living here, I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that because I live under the law of God, not under the law of this random governor. And if it needed to, I would move away. But
Like abortion, for example, would you be against that in certain states?
so yeah, I am against abortion because I just think it's really sad. Um, I understand why people, justify it and even make that choice. I just know so many women that have had really sad experiences and felt really broken afterwards,
This
like
is something
mourned
we
their
agree on.
child.
I'm very against abortion too.
You are, yeah, because it's just like I actually read a statistic the other day, and it said that 1/4 of the people born in the year I was born in were aborted.
Wow.
And I was just like, "Oh my gosh," because that I could have an like 8 more friends, but they're not here because abortion. And that inconvenient year of that mom having to live pregnant, oh man, like that would have been so bad for her life. It's just terrible. It's terrible. I'm glad you agree with that because it's just, I don't know how people don't. Like, I understand people that try and justify it and they have specific situations, but I believe that's an objective morality and people live into the subjective morality of it.
But so we laid out the premise that you said if a law is wrong, you are okay with breaking the law in the name of your faith, right? Like if it's illegal to be a Christian, it's okay to break the law to be a
Yeah.
Christian.
Uh-huh.
So in that, would you say the same with abortion then?
So abortion is like the opposite. Like it's something that is legal that I don't believe in.
So
So it's
like
like
if you
it's
sabotage an abortion clinic or something, would that be okay in the
honestly.
name of?
Well, no, because that's just not right. Um,
But you're
but
stopping something bad from happening.
yeah, so we have different centers that like we have different centers specifically that are Christian that will talk to women that are pregnant and don't want to be pregnant, and essentially they'll like set them up with someone to adopt the baby. They'll give them a heartbeat monitor, whatever, and show them like, oh, the baby's alive, and try and get them to not abort the child. And sometimes it works. It works like 80% of the time, and then the 20% of the time, the people still go and get abortions, and it's so sad and terrible. But it's actually pretty crazy if you learn about Planned Parenthood. Have you learned about them?
I know a little bit about that.
They're literally decreasing the black population in the US. It's crazy. They make their facilities intentionally in black neighborhoods that are impoverished. And
Maybe
so the
that's just
pop
where abortions tend to happen, though. Anyway,
I guess
more or less.
so. But it's very disturbing to me because it's like I don't know, I feel like it's very like they say they're for one thing, but really they're taking away the rights of these children that can't fight for themselves.
But basically, the bottom line is, so I got you to admit that you'd be willing to break the law in the name of so Christian girl says to break the
Mhm.
law. That could be the out of context thing.
I would break the law if it didn't what am I trying to say? Give me a second. I'll say the whole sentence.
If it didn't conform to Christianity, basically.
Um I guess break the law if it was against my beliefs as a Christian. But in all rightness, if there's any way to do both, I would do that. But my beliefs in Christ and my obedience to God and the Bible, like that surpasses any law of a country.
Okay, yeah, sorry it went over. Good job.
I enjoyed this.
Yeah, next time we can do more videos where we can watch like a full thing. I guess we got distracted. But make like a top 3, like The Case for Christ and a couple other maybe movies or something we could watch.
Okay, Case for Christ, maybe The Chosen. Have you heard of The Chosen?
I've heard of it.
That
Isn't
would be
that
a
a
good one.
show?
It is a show,
Yeah.
yeah. It's pretty interesting. And then I'll try and think of another one.